My name is Rachel, and honestly, I never thought I'd be the kind of person to hold on to revenge. But when someone you trust completely stabs you in the back, and no one stands by you, something in you changes. This isn't just a story about what happened to me. It's about what I did with the pain. He stood on that stage accepting an award for my idea, and thanked everyone but me. That was the moment I knew. If no one else would recognize my worth, I'd show them why they should have. I never had much growing up. I wasn't born into wealth or handed any shortcuts. Everything I had I earned, bit by bit, struggle by struggle. After finishing my master's degree in marketing with a scholarship and 3 part-time jobs, I thought maybe, finally, things would start falling into place. I landed a junior marketing analyst role at a mid-sized firm in downtown Chicago. It wasn't a glamorous position, but to me, it was everything. My first salary job, my own desk, a tiny studio apartment I paid for myself, with a fridge that barely worked and creaky floors that made the whole room echo when I walked. But still, it was mine. Most mornings started with coffee I brewed at home and walked to work holding tightly in gloved hands during those bitter Midwest winters. I didn't complain. I was proud of showing up before everyone else, staying long after most lights were off. I was hungry, not for praise, but for purpose, for growth. I wanted to prove to myself, and maybe to the world, that I was capable of something more. The one person who seemed to notice was my boss, Greg. He was sharp, confident, and well-liked. People listened when he spoke, and when he told me I had promise, I believed him. Maybe too much. He'd sometimes stop by my desk to say, "You think outside the box, Rachel, that's rare." It lit me up inside, made all the missed weekends and late dinners worth it. I began to trust him, not just as a supervisor, but as a mentor. He made me feel seen. So when I started developing this new campaign concept, an integrated AI marketing strategy that would pull real-time user data for dynamic ad adjustments, I poured myself into it. I wasn't told to do it. No one assigned it to me. But I believed in it so strongly that I couldn't keep it to myself. I worked on it after hours through weekends, sometimes even while eating dinner at my desk. Greg encouraged me. He said I was onto something fresh, something big. When I finally finished the pitch deck, it felt like I had bottled lightning. Every slide had intention, every line carefully worded. I sent it to Greg with a note. "Let me know if I should present this myself or if you'd prefer to walk through it." I was nervous but excited. This was my moment, my work, my breakthrough. I went to bed that night feeling like maybe, just maybe, my career was about to take off. But looking back now, that night was the last time I felt genuinely hopeful inside that building. The next morning, I walked into the office with a strange flutter in my chest, half nerves, half pride. I kept checking my inbox, expecting a reply from Greg. Maybe, "Let's review this today," or "You nailed it." But nothing came. Just the usual meeting invites and morning reports. Still, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. He was probably busy, right? I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe he wanted to surprise the execs with a polished version and then bring me in as the brain behind it. It wasn't until later that day that I realized something wasn't right. I overheard my coworkers whispering near the break room, something about how Greg had knocked it out of the park in the presentation. My heart skipped. I walked over, pretending to refill my coffee, and casually asked, "Oh? What presentation?" One of them smiled and said, "The new AI strategy pitch. Greg gave it this morning. Everyone said it was genius." I stood there frozen, my hand still on the coffee pot, my mind racing. "Wait, what? He presented it without me?" I rushed back to my desk and opened the internal server. Sure enough, the deck he had uploaded for the meeting had my structure, my diagrams, down to the font choice and color palette. Only one thing was missing, my name. At first, I genuinely thought it was a mistake. Maybe he forgot to loop me in. Maybe it was a draft he had shown them to get feedback. I emailed him quickly, something like, "Hey, just wanted to check. Was that the same deck I sent you? Should we prep for the next steps together?" But again, no reply. The silence screamed louder than any answer. I walked straight to his office that afternoon, trying to steady my breath. He barely looked up from his computer. I asked him, gently at first, if he had used my presentation in the executive meeting. He nodded, casually, like it wasn't a big deal. I pushed further, asked why I hadn't been invited, why I hadn't been credited. That's when he gave me a look I'll never forget, calm, slightly amused, and said, "Rachel, don't be naive. Ideas developed on company time belong to the company. We're a team, right?" My stomach dropped. He wasn't just dismissing me, he was making it clear. I had handed him gold, and he had pocketed it without hesitation. That night the internal newsletter dropped. There it was, his face in a photo, shaking hands with the COO. The headline read, "VP Greg Harmon's visionary campaign secures national rollout." I stared at that screen for what felt like hours. The words blurred. My throat tightened. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was calculated. He had stolen my work, paraded it around as his own, and shut me out like I never existed. And the worst part? No one seemed surprised. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, cycling through every moment, every conversation with Greg, every late night I spent working on that idea, every little compliment he gave me that now felt so hollow. It was like the floor had opened up beneath everything I thought was solid. I kept refreshing my inbox, half hoping for an apology, an explanation, anything that might suggest this wasn't what it looked like. But by morning, the silence had only deepened. I walked into work feeling like a ghost. Nobody looked at me the same. The energy had shifted. Greg walked around beaming like a man on top of the world, shaking hands, cracking jokes. I sat at my desk trying to disappear. Part of me hoped someone would say something. "Hey, wasn't that Rachel's idea?" But no one did. I started to wonder if I'd imagined the whole thing, if maybe I had been naive to think I'd get credit for something as an entry-level employee. Maybe this was just how the world worked. Still, I couldn't stay quiet. I scheduled a meeting with HR. I walked in with my email thread, my drafts, even time-stamped documents that proved the campaign was mine from the beginning. The HR rep listened politely, nodded a lot, but I could see it in her eyes. She was already siding with Greg. After a long pause, she said, "Well, Rachel, ideas developed while employed here fall under company property, and Greg, as your direct supervisor, has the discretion to present strategic initiatives." That word, discretion, felt like a slap. I asked if they would at least investigate. Her tone softened, almost pitying, and she said, "If you continue down this path, you're standing here. Just be careful." I left that room shaking. Not with fear. No, with rage. I felt so betrayed. By Greg, by the system, by the silence of every colleague who had watched it happen and said nothing. Even my friends outside of work tried to comfort me with empty words. That sucks, but maybe let it go. Next time, don't share your ideas too early. As if I'd brought this on myself. I started skipping lunch just to avoid the break room. I kept my head down, did my tasks, and said as little as possible. I was disappearing inside my own life. Then came the final blow. I found out from another coworker Greg had submitted the campaign for a national marketing award, and he won. My work had officially made him VP of the Year. I saw the press release in our industry newsletter. I read it 3 times before quietly walking to the stairwell, where I sat down on the concrete floor and cried for 20 straight minutes. Not just because he stole something from me, but because he got rewarded for it. And no one, not one person, stood up for me. That's when I knew. If I wanted justice, I'd have to build it myself. I didn't explode. I didn't scream in the office or post an angry rant online. That's what Greg probably expected. But instead, I went quiet. Not silent like I was defeated. Quiet like a storm that knows exactly when to strike. 2 weeks after his award was announced, I handed in my resignation. No drama, just a clean, typed letter and a brief thank you. He barely looked up when I placed it on his desk. "All the best," he said. That smug tone in his voice made something inside me harden like stone. I walked out of that building and didn't look back. The cold Chicago air hit my face, but for the first time in months, I could actually breathe. I took a job at a small startup across town. It paid less, and the hours were rough, but it gave me space. Space to think, space to rebuild. I poured every free hour into refining my idea, this time better, tighter, sharper. I built the campaign from the ground up again, fixing every weak point Greg had never even noticed. I researched, tested, adjusted. I even taught myself new tools and automation techniques just to make it stronger. Eventually, I pitched it to a local coffee chain. They were skeptical. Who was I to offer them a high-tech solution? But I gave them a free 30-day trial. Their sales jumped by 19%. Then a second client came, then a third. And suddenly, I wasn't just a consultant, I was a founder. I registered my own business, RKL Strategies, from the same tiny apartment where I'd once cried over being invisible. My bedroom became my office. I ate instant noodles while drafting client proposals. I worked 12-hour days and answered every email like it was gold. Slowly, my name started spreading. A year later, I landed my first major national client, a health brand looking to revamp their entire digital approach. They didn't want a big agency. They wanted innovation. And I gave it to them. Within 6 months, we tripled their engagement and doubled their revenue. My team, because yes, I had one now, celebrated with pizza in my living room because we didn't have an office yet. And I didn't care. We were building something real. Then came the magazine feature. A local business publication did a profile on young entrepreneurs to watch. They put my photo on the cover with the headline, "From Overlooked to Unstoppable." I didn't even know Greg subscribed until he emailed me. The subject line read, "Impressive. Let's catch up sometime." No apology, no mention of the past. Just a thin layer of fake professionalism trying to sneak back in. I didn't reply. But I asked my assistant to draft a kind response. "Rachel is currently unavailable. If you'd like to schedule a meeting, please contact her executive office." Signed, Rachel Lynn, founder and CEO, RKL Strategies. I don't know what Greg's face looked like when he read that, but in my mind, it looked a lot like regret. I'm not proud of how angry I felt, but I am proud of what I built with that anger. Greg taught me a valuable lesson. Never expect someone else to protect your dream. It's yours for a reason. Sometimes people won't recognize your worth until you stop giving it to them for free. If this story meant something to you, hit subscribe for more. And if someone's trying to take what's yours right now, don't chase them. Just build something so real they can't ignore you anymore. You're stronger than you think.